is in essence kind of like a dream come true. Welcome to another video. This is an opportunity that I could not refuse. I have been invited along to help run the Cavalier British Touring Car. So let's get into it. As the introduction says, I've been invited along to kind of pit crew for this beautiful Cavalier touring car. This is chassis number 1, and to be able to work around and see how the classic touring cars are built is just an experience in itself. We will be going to Silverstone to the British kind of classic touring cars in the next 3 weeks. We will be in the pits and we will be pitting. Let's dive into this car and show you a little bit of ins and outs of what it is. So the original Cavalier touring car was designed to be rear wheel drive, and to prove that fact, this is chassis number 1. Chassis number 1 had these mounts because the original car was rear wheel drive. So this car in its original form was rear wheel drive, and it did 4 meets with the rear wheel drive setup with Cleland driving. Had many prop shaft failures, so then after that they convert it over to front wheel drive, which is what it is today. Obviously the classic air jacks are round, everything is stitch welded, all over has been reinforced. Again, just so nice to see inside a classic touring car. So obviously you've got your stack dash, X-Track selector, anti-roll bar adjuster for just the rear. These are oil lines for the dry sump setup. Again, air jacks all round, carbon door cards, and this here is for the exhaust tunnel. Now I would guess because they designed it to be rear wheel drive, that's why they put the exhaust in this area, so they could run the prop, run the diff. Let's get underneath at the back and then we'll get round to the front. So centre lock brakes, fully adjustable coilovers, but the real work of art from a standard Cavalier is these arms and the full back arm setup. This is all one-off custom work, which is obviously only on the touring cars. Anti-roll bar setup. So let's slide under so you can see it look a bit more. So as you can see, the giant trailing arms which go to a front like cradle setup, which go there. You can see the anti-roll bar setup which runs along the back, which if you look there, that's the cable inside which adjusts the stiffness of it, the oil cooler which obviously ducted in, and to look under there, it's stunning. All the tubular work, everything is really nice. And what is also nice is to say this car is X amount of years old, the work and the welding on this type of thing is really a high notch. It's all TIG welded, where the chassis is MIG welded. So you go from MIG welding, hit and miss in places, but it is all stitch weld, obviously the shell, but all this is TIG welded. And let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Everything is TIG welded to a really nice high standard. So you can see all the setup of the back arms and the anti-roll bar, really nice. You can see the exhaust tunnel there, which obviously when it was rear wheel drive, the prop shaft would have run through. You can see the air jacks where it gets it up in the air with the locking pins in, but everything's rose jointed for full adjustment, so you can basically adjust this on the cuff to make it handle. So we're prepping the car for Silverstone. It's the GP circuit that this car's going to be racing on in 3 weeks time. Pulled the gear cluster out the X-Track box. We're going through the data which has come with the car, which obviously is priceless data of what gears to run at what track. All the different information of the gear ratios, which match. So what we're going to do is, we're pulling the gear set out. We've got a box full of gears. We're going to follow this, get that made up, so this car then is geared perfectly for Silverstone in 3 weeks.
So there it is. Yeah. A bit more difficult to get in, but obviously, but you see what's, if you look in there.
That's the same as F28, you can't buy it.
Really?
Yeah, you can't buy it there.
I think I've got one still.
Keep it in your pocket.
Yeah.
You can't get them no more.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, those ones you can't get no more. Did these come with the car? Or are these yours?
They came, but they weren't. Yes, they all came with the car.
You ever stripped the dog gears off?
Yeah.
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 So moving to the front, AP 6 pots, centre locks, as we've said. But what's interesting, which I didn't realise, is the full hub carrier is again all custom. You can see the nice TIG welding, all custom work, all on the hub carriers, which you can see. You see the bottom arms are the same. All rose jointed for full adjustment. Doesn't have a full cradle like an original Cavalier. It's shortened to a rose joint going up to the steering arms. These steering arms are monstrous compared to a stock Cavalier. You can see where everything's tied in for the roll cage. It's really high end, obviously as you'd expect from a British touring car. Other little feature: air jack, battery, fire, jump box. We'll have a little bit of a walk around and show a bit of the decals. This is classed as, like say, chassis number 1, confirmed. It is driven by Cleland, as you can see with some of the pictures around and the original bonnet. So it's going to be a really nice experience to go to Silverstone and to be able to pit and watch this car go around. So let's dive under the engine and let's look at what the class as the king of the XEs. So we're around the front. This is the magic, the Swindon Racing XE engine. This is an early one, so it's not the reversible head, because anyone who's new to the Vauxhalls, Swindon Racing did a reversible head, which basically means it moved the throttle bodies to the front, exhaust to the rear. This is an early one which doesn't have that. Let's dive in and let's have a look at some similarities between the normal XE that we all know and love and this thing. There is so many little similarities which you can pick up on, the original thermostat housing. When you look down the back, it's an original starter alternator. It's got the original power steering pump on from the Cavalier. I'd even go as far as to say it is actually an original alternator, but it does have a spacer on. And what's interesting with this setup, the tensioner system is like we run on my race car, where it's not a self-tension. It's on a cantilever system, which looks like on this pulley. So if you look down there, you've got the dry sump system, which is run off the water pump, which goes down to the dry sump setup. Then you've got the original alternator to the bottom, power steering to the bottom, and it's also running a external trigger wheel, which I don't know if you can see. That's the sensor down there. So yeah, so that's obviously the timing end, which is quite interesting to have the oil pump run off the water pump. First to me, I've never seen that before. I've seen it run off the bottom pulley, and the oil pump normally sits at the front of the engine. This is how they did it back in the day. Slider throttle bodies, don't know what size, I would have thought like 48s or something like that. And what is interesting, standard cream injectors for an XE. Standard fuel rail with a couple of modifications on it. Full carbon trumpet system, slider trumpet system, big manifold, probably what looks like two and a quarter inch primaries. Radiator, water system slightly different, feeds into the head here and then goes off up here into the head there. And then, like I say, going back to the steering rack, look at the thickness of the arms, monstrously thick. Quick rack, non-vacuum assist, fuel regulator, everything's just, obviously it's old school, but it's just nice to see. What looks like an oil pressure sensor to obviously see the engine drops oil pressure. We're kind of here today to familiarise us with the car for Silverstone in the future, basically, because obviously I will be pit crewing and helping with this. So it kind of spend the morning, get a bit of experience on how the car's assembled, discuss what needs doing in the pits, basically familiarise with the setup and meet Jim and the team for the first time. So it's going to be a really super interesting journey, because I would like to say I'm probably one of the people who have worked most on an XE engine in the UK. I've got to be up there with them to work on a genuine touring car and have the opportunity to go and assist, watch it race, fix it, do all that type of thing is in essence kind of like a dream come true. Listen to this. What we're doing is we're just turning it over to get some oil pressure up, because it's going to dry sump, and the dry sump tank's in the boot. We'll crank it over, get some oil pressure, and then we'll turn the fuel on to get it running. introducing the car. Let's get this run through. Let's get it in the trailer. Let's get it to Silverstone and see how we get on with this beautiful British touring car.